Never seen such a war. Johnny Reb don't get you, the Indians will.
Generally, media stereotypes that we see in Native American communities are based off of Hollywood stereotypes, popular culture that you're familiar with. Most people, I think, would say that they don't know personally someone who is Indigenous. And what that means, when you couple that with the fact that their public school system didn't tell them anything about not only true Indigenous histories, but what Indigenous people look like in a post-1900 context, then those people are left to make assumptions based on the stereotypes they see in popular culture. And a lot of times those stereotypes, whether intentional or not, make their way into reporting. Hi, my name is Brewer. I'm a national reporter at NBC News and a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Welcome to NBCU Academy. If you read a lot of the reporting about these communities, especially reservation life, which has been very heavily stereotyped, there's almost always a paragraph that encapsulates poverty statistics, suicide rates, unemployment, but it fails to offer any context as to how we got here. If you were going to write a story about, let's say there's some kind of health disparity in a poor community in a major city in the United States, and this is a city that's mostly white, do you think it would be appropriate to have that same paragraph in that story without any context?
Thousands linked arms. Cheers rang out.
I think if you look at coverage of Standing Rock, for instance, which was a catalyst for a lot of newsrooms to kind of recognize the fact that they've been ignoring Native communities for a long, long time. Standing Rock was a story that was happening a couple years before it ever made national news. It only made national news once it got violent. I'm the vice president of the Native American Journalists Association. So one of the things that we put out recently was our Spotlight report, which took a really in-depth look at the last few years of coverage when it came to tribal communities. And what that report showed was, I think, a really troubling continued pattern of focusing on trauma, violence, and I guess deprivation, disadvantage, things like that. The Naja bingo card came from that idea of that paragraph that's in every story about a Native community that lists the suicide rates and unemployment rates, poverty, things like that. And if you go through your story and you get a bingo, or if you get close to one, it should be an indicator to you that maybe I need to back up and reevaluate how I'm focusing this story. And so the bingo card should be a way for you to kind of see your own biases a little bit and question whether or not, is this information I'm including important? Is it contextualized? And is it helpful? Or am I just including it because I think that that's what this community is defined by? A lot of reporting about Native communities is just that. It's about them. It's not for them. When a real community reporter understands a community, knows the stakes, knows what the future could hold and what the current arguments are, all of that stuff that gives you a contextual, rounded, very three-dimensional view of a community, it leads to good stories. No tribal nation is just like another. There are over 500 federally recognized tribes and many more Indigenous communities. I think getting to know those governments, understanding how they function, how they pass laws, how their elections work, those are all real areas that most reporters don't know anything about and typically ignore. And so not only does it make your reporting better when you know them, it leads you to stories that your competition simply won't see. If you're going to try to cover a tribal nation, I think it's important to be present in the community as much as possible, understand its history and its its relationship with the U.S. government. How did it get here, and to know how that government functions. I think in order to be objective in Indian country, you have to be very willing to make yourself uncomfortable. Because if you're an objective journalist covering a Native community, then you cannot ignore the fact that the American government has actively worked to try to destroy this community. And so as an American, that's a hard pill to swallow. It's unsettling to think that you as an American have benefited from genocide. But I don't see how you can report an Indian country without confronting that personally. You really have to be willing to confront real historical violence, because that's how we got here.